Let me say that as a young person growing up in Enugu those days, in the 70s, we are ardent admirers of Rangers International and the Christian Chukwu as his keeper. I recall in those days we used to rush the stadium, defy every threat or family assignment to make sure we get to the stadium to watch them play. They were all our idols, but as time went on and course of their football career, I started getting a bit closer to him. But my personal relationship with Christian Chukwu dates back to over 30 years now. That's about 30, 35 years. That was when I really came into contact with him, and that was when the idea of trying to document his biography came up. And then I met him, we discussed, and he agreed. And that was what now brought us together. From doing his biography, we became very close to the extent that we became very personal friends. That virtually every aspect of his life from then on till the last moment of his life, we were together. We were together at the point that I was his personal assistant when he was chief coach of Super Eagles. And then, of course, when he was in Kenya, we were relating, communicating. Even after he left active service as a coach, we continued to relate. So we are very, very close to the extent that I even married his cousin.
Oh
He's also my
wow.
wife today. Yes, yes. So that's the level of relationship we have. So
Yeah.
it's very, very close. It's really very close.
Okay. So now you said, you guys got closer as you started to document his life. So now, first of all, when did you decide that you want to write a book on him? What inspired that decision? What about him made you want to?
It's just a curiosity, as a media person, I'm a journalist by training, of course. So I have always had this interest of documenting the lives of great men, and then the idea of doing his own became more passionate to me because I've been a passionate lover of Rangers, and I know I follow their history of what they have been able to do for the Igbos after the war and all that. And this is being the one that was leading the battle. So I felt there was something necessary to document this for posterity, that if it's not done, we will lose the story in the long run. So that was when I now got challenged, and I said I must have to do something that will immortalize his name, that will document and remind us the role they played after the Civil War. Because actually it was leadership of Christian Rangers that provided us in their platform after the Civil War to our integration into the Nigerian society. Because we were almost a vanquished people. So that platform, that conquering spirit of Rangers became the platform, the vehicle that enabled. So I felt these things are things that need to be told in a broader perspective so that people will get to know what this Rangers represent. That was what fired me on to begin to think of writing the book.
So what was the process like? Gathering these
Okay,
information.
it wasn't really easy because I just felt I had to do a book on Christian, but just not like the ordinary kind of biography. That is why by the time you get through with the book, you find out that the story of Christian is interspersed with the story of Rangers at the time and the story of the Green Eagles at the time. So it took a lot of in-depth research, but I had to go deeper, trying to extract all the process of Rangers and the matches they played, and then and all that took place at that time, and also before going into his personal life experiences. So it took a lot of time, a lot of research and interviews and all that in the libraries and other places to be able to put the whole thing together. So it took a lot of time,
Yes.
so that is the process. After doing the book, of course, we now go to the stage of launching, producing and publishing and all that.
Yes. Yes. That's true. So now the book is titled Christian Chukwu, the Field Marshal. Why the Field Marshal? What does it signify to you and to his legacy as well?
Well, like I tried to explain in the introductory part of the book, Vincent Chukwu was the captain of Rangers and the captain of the Green Eagles. But in the course of football career, he was a defensive player. The last man, those days you have what's called the central defender. He was just the one that was clearing the defense, both for Rangers and the Green Eagles. And if you watch him play, then he was like a general on the pitch, leading his men to war. So he was called several other names. Some people call him chairman. Amongst his colleagues, they call him skipper and all that. But I felt that the title field marshal was more encompassing because it shows the kind of person he is. He was a leader. He was a general in the field of play. And in most cases, that's why even the book itself, we are trying to kind of analyze the role he played. And that's why you begin to see in some chapters like the Battle of Mehala, the Battle of Conakry, the Battle of this or that, because that was actually what happened in those days. He was a general, and each time you watch him play, and when he was coming out from from the tunnel to the field, you see him marshalling his men, a kind of war dance formation, showing that it was really a battle. So that was actually how the title of Field Marshal came up. And I felt it was more appropriate than any other title.
Okay.
So,
So now, talking about his life and his career, how would you describe his leadership style, both on the pitch and off the pitch?
his leadership style is awesome. Christian is, I must say, was a born leader in all these ramifications. He's a very quiet, he's not a noisy type of person, but he is a really born leader. And that leadership, he has this charisma that drives him and make people to respect him, even in the field of play amongst his colleagues. I'll give you some instances. For instance, when he was the captain of Rangers, there was an incident that happened when the players, for instance, said they were not going to play over certain issues, on those issues are resolved. And the coach then, who is also late now, Professor Tamechina, told me the story. They were going for a match, and that match was a very interesting match. It was a crucial international match for the Ghanaian team. They were all inside the bus, and nobody was sure what was going to happen because the players have already resolved they were not going to play that match. And the coach said himself was confused because he didn't know how to pacify the players. So approaching the stadium, the National Stadium Lagos, with the thousands of footballers and football enthusiasts all there cheering and all that, there was tension. And nobody knew what was going on. Would the players boycott the match or what? So the coach recalled at that point in time, Christian Chukwu sprang up from his seat and bellowed the Rangers players, and they answered him, yeah. He said, "Are we going to play this match?" They said, "Yes." And then the players busted into singing because of him. So they couldn't say no to him. That was one aspect of leadership. And then there was also, when he was the Green Eagles captain, the players were also agitating for increase in their allowance. Then they were being paid 2 naira a day as their feeding allowance in the Green Eagles camp, and they wanted an increase. But it wasn't easy because they had been asking for it and nothing was coming. So at the point, the players now decided they were not going to play. They were going to protest. And then when he got to know about it, he didn't want that protest to take place. What he did was to lead a few of his teammates with Shegodeba and Emmanuel Okala and Samuel Jebode to meet Dr. Zika Akoye, who was the director of sports there, to discuss about increasing their welfare package, their feeding allowance. So they eventually succeeded in getting increase from 2 naira to 4 naira a day as a feeding allowance. So he is that kind of leader who is not noisy, but in his own kind of way, he has this charisma that makes him to lead people, and they respect him, both on the pitch and off the pitch, even to the last year of his life. That's why some of them still regarded him as their leader, even after they stopped playing. Among his teammates and colleagues, they still call him their leader because of that leadership qualities.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So now, what are some of the you've already given two instances of his leadership style. So now, what would you say are some of the standout moments in his football career that you felt had to be documented in the book?
Of course, there are so many standout moments in his football career because he led Rangers to so many victories in the national competitions and the continental competitions. There are standout moments like when the Rangers won the Africa Cup Winners' Cup, the only cup international trophy Rangers ever won. That was in 1977. That was a standout moment for him because by then Rangers had been in continental competitions. They lost in the finals of the Champions League, that is the African Cup of Champions in 1975 against Hachi of Guinea. And they have been clamored, they have been pushed for Rangers to at least make an error. So in 1977, they won that trophy. It was a very historic one because 1976 ICC won the competition, that's the Nigerian club side, and Rangers had to beat them in the semi-finals. That match was almost like a war between Rangers and ICC, almost like throwing the country into a war situation. It was tension. The country was so tense that the federal government had to intervene. The chief of staff, civil headquarters, then Brigadier Chukwu Yar'Adua had to step in to calm the situation. So after beating Ice, Rangers went ahead to win the cup against the Kano Sporting of Cameroon. It was a very historic moment for them. And of course, the 1980 Nations Cup, when the Nigeria won the first Africa Cup of Nations under his leadership. It was also another defining moment for him because never won that championship. Nigeria had been fourth place finalists in 1976 and 1978 Nations Cup. So 1980, the country hosted it, and every hope was that country must win that championship. So Christian led the Green Eagles to also win that competition the first time in the history of the country. So it's also a defining moment. It's also a defining moment when he was chief coach of the same national team with Clemens Westhoff when they won the cup in 1994. That's a Nations Cup again. That's making him the first Nigerian, both as a player and a coach, to win the Nations Cup as a coach and a player, and also qualified the Green Eagles to the Super Eagles to the World Cup in 1994 World Cup in USA 94. So these are defining moments.
Yes.
They are very defining, that are very spectacular, and I'm not sure that anybody in Nigeria or in Africa has that kind of record he has. That's true.
That's impeccable. Now, when we talk of Christian Chukwu, it's all about football. Christian Chukwu and football are always together in the same sentence. But now, outside of football, what kind of man would you say Christian Chukwu was outside of football? Talking about personal values and character traits that stood out.
Well, outside football, Christian Chukwu is somebody that just maybe I describe him as enigma because you can't even actually be able to. He has this. He's a complex character in the sense that he's somebody that is personally he's somebody that looks he's down to earth. He's down to earth. He has this kind of attitude to life that nothing really matters so much to him. He likes to relate with people, and that's why people get to be surprised that when they meet him on close range and they found out that he's Christian Chukwu, they are surprised because his lifestyle does not really portray that of such a popular superstar he is. He lives a very simple life, very quiet life, and all that. He's somebody that is also very disciplined in terms of the approach to life. He has a lot of. If he makes up his mind to do something, he wants to do it. It doesn't really matter what happens. And then, of course, he has a lot of love for people. He likes to relate with people. Those around him know that anytime you come across him, he likes to relate with people. He's not a jovial person. As a matter of fact, his life is just jovial. He wants to make everybody happy at any given time. So he doesn't really, and he doesn't harbor any kind of ill feelings. There's nothing that will make him to see him and you understand that he's angry. No matter how hard the situation is, he will keep it to himself. He just believes that he has to live his own life the way he wants it. And that is the kind of person he is. So he's disciplined, he's humane, and he's simple, and he has a lot of respect for other people. But of course, he's also a very patriotic person. He likes the country, he likes the race, and there's nothing that will make him to really go against these values, even when things are not right. Like when he was chief coach of the Super Eagles and he was kicked out for some reasons that could not be understood, and they terminated that contract without paying him his dues. And there was this pressure for him to take it up and then go to court. He said, no, he's not going to do that because it looks as if he's fighting the country. So he is a very patriotic man, and he gave his best and fought for the country.
Yes. All right. Now, aside from all that people know about Christian Chukwu, I'm sure that there are some lesser known things that people might not really know. Let's call them fun facts of things that people would see and be like, oh, I never knew that Christian did this or did that. So were there any of those things that you uncovered or you found out in the course of writing?
There are so many things about Christian, of course, but like I said, he's somebody that he keeps to himself. That is just about his life. So, but he's like I said, he's somebody that is down to earth. Christian will be here with you now. You are discussing that he sees somebody selling groundnut. Say, but madam, come. You want to buy that groundnut, and you buy. Believe that so many little things. He can stop at the place, crack joke with people. Not minding whoever they are. Sometimes you feel embarrassed that he's coming that too low to relate with, to do that kind of things, but he doesn't really see it as anything, as a big deal. That's just the way he wants to do it. So he's somebody that regards people. At any point in time, anybody that's dealing and having anything to do with it, he brings the person closer. Talk with the person and say, this is what I want to do. So there are some little things about him, but you really cannot really know him about his life.
All right. So now let me ask you personally, what is your, or do you have a favorite memory with Christian Chukwu? Something personal, because you said you were, quite close to him. So what is that, personal memory you have of Christian Chukwu? Personal to you, not what everybody knows about him. That may or that did or did not make it into the book, but it's something quite personal. Whenever you remember Christian Chukwu, you remember that memory, maybe a moment you shared with him or something like that.
Well, a lot of it, because like I said, I was privileged and opportunity to stay with him most of the time. And then, of course, for the better part of the year, or that is, I've been with him all through, and they will stay out. Christian, somebody like likes to sit out. For instance, he stays out. Just that is not does not mean he wants to start drinking. He doesn't drink. He doesn't drink in the sense of if he wants to maybe once in a while, but he wants to stay around people. And each time we are done, we are going home. He just tell me, okay, tomorrow we see, that kind of thing. And I always value that. We part our ways. The next day we meet and continue like that. That's why I said the last time he told me that tomorrow, I never knew it was going to be the last time.
Yes.
So that is it. So we related very, very closely in all sense of the word. We were very close. Even when he was in the hospital bed, we were together.
Yes. All right. So now, what lesson do you hope that both readers, young athletes, young people who want to, enter into the football space, or those who are already in the space, what do you hope that they take from Christian Chukwu's life, and also from what you've documented about him?
The first lesson is that this lesson of self-discipline. Christian believes that in life you cannot go far if you are not disciplined. Christian was an embodiment of discipline, self-discipline. He was focused. He knew what he wanted at any given time, and he went for it to achieve that. The lesson is for the young ones that are coming up to look up to Christian Chukwu, the kind of values he brought into life of self-discipline, life of not being ostentatious about life, trying to live a simple life and live with people, respect constituted authority. Christian doesn't like joking with even if a small boy is the head, he wants to give him that respect. You want to call him sir, and sometimes as people say, no, that is the man in charge, so I have to respect him. So he respects constituted authority. He believes that the rule must apply. So in terms of life, that is what has guided him. Being focused and then hard work. He also believes that one has to work very hard in life to achieve whatever dream or vision you have. So these are things. Some of the values that I know he brought in life. Of course, like I said, humility personified. He's a very humble person. Not his life.
So that's what you believe that they take, or you hope they take, as lessons.
That's what I believe they should. That's why it's important that anybody or people should actually try to make themselves available and read the book. Because there are so many lessons about Christian that they have to learn. There are also so many lessons about his leadership qualities, about his character as a person.
Yes.
These are things that the young ones should be able to emulate and apply in their lives.
All right. Thank you so much, Ogechukwu Ajuzie, for this wonderful conversation. And, it's a lovely thing to document, the life of someone as great as Christian Chukwu. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You're welcome.
All right.